Alright, here we are again. Hi everyone, my name is Coach Rio from the Prep Coach. I'm with Sari today.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, today
Always.
I'm feeling a bit down and stuff, feeling a bit tired, but yeah, nonetheless.
Yeah.
Alright, firstly, I just want to thank Phil Stretch for Performance for being our main sponsor for this podcast. You can reach through their Phil Stretch Performance IG or website to book for consultation or services
To get better.
to get better. Yeah.
To be more mobile, more flexible.
Alright.
Right? So, and being able to get someone to stretch you out and leaving the place a bit more happier, and you can perform well on your training programs and everything is always a plus.
Yep. And it's not always every day you get to be stretched by our
Haider.
local 7-time champion classic physic,
Yep.
Mr. Haider Haidre.
Yeah. Book him especially,
Yep.
even though his schedule is packed.
Right.
And also
Okay.
you can
Anyways.
partner Shafiq T.
Anyways, alright.
Dynamic duo.
Sorry?
The dynamic duo.
Dynamic duo. Fantastic. Alright, okay. Anyways, how have your week been?
Can be better,
For sure,
but
right?
I've been busy for a fair bit. Because I have a very special client.
Oh, what
Right.
kind of special client? Extraordinary?
Yes, in a way.
Alright.
Not from Singapore, so a bit
really?
more.
Is it a competitor? Or?
No, he's not a competitor. He's a actor. So I couldn't say much yet for now. So hopefully when this podcast is out, he'll be back to where he's from and shooting his film, or rather his series for Netflix.
Oh, nice.
Right.
So is it gonna be like premiering soon or?
As what he told me, he will do the filming for 10 days, and then after that, probably mid-June, probably,
Alright.
it'll be released, because it's season 3 for that series.
50 Shades of Grey?
No. No. Not from the US, not from the Europe,
alright,
okay?
alright.
Not from Europe.
Okay,
Okay?
fair
I wouldn't want to say it now. Probably the other episode that we're gonna do, then I might say something out. Alright?
Alright, so what we're gonna touch base is on basically about off-season, development season, what is important and what's not, because I've heard in so many channels in terms of handful people say, oh, off-season is not needed, it's not that important. I mean, off-season I can work on myself, off-season I don't need any coaches and stuff like that. And I had a handful also feedback saying that it's the importance of having off-season is to really help you develop your physique and to ensure that whatever when you're transition into a pre-contest, it will be much more easier and stuff. So before we touch in details in terms of off-season, development season, I mean, what's your thought about that?
Okay. For me, having an off season, or rather having a good, productive off season, is the real reason why we have an off season, right? So to have a coach, not to have a coach, it still boils down to the individual's budget or
Knowledge.
preference, knowledge or preference.
right.
Okay. So in an ideal world, it's better to have a coach to guide you still in the off season, because that's where whatever you do in the off season
Yeah.
can mirror your pre-contest. You know what I mean? In terms of your training program, in terms of your meal plan, and in the off season also you have to really be in tune
Yep.
in terms of your eating, everything, what kind of food your body agree or disagree, and then you can make changes from there. Rather than when you go into a pre-contest and you get a coach and then the coach doesn't know, or rather no info prior to that. You know
No
what I mean?
data and stuff. Yeah, totally understand. So I mean, in regards into off season, what would be the vital approach in terms of the length of the off season, the prior use of enhancement drug, and I mean what I notice the common mistake is surplusing calories unnecessarily and rushing through because I want to grow big, I need to eat. Yes, to a contact it makes sense, but to keep surplusing 300 calories every week and pushing you to the limit,
Okay.
it's also I wouldn't say non-productive. Am I right to say that?
Yeah, okay. There's several points in that. Okay, to begin with, the pushing of calories too fast, too furious, is never a good thing to do. Right?
Yep,
First, probably your digestion couldn't keep up, and when you can't digest that amount of food that you're shoveling down your throat, that will take a beating. Your digestion will take a beating, and hence you can't eat anymore.
For sure.
And then you have this gloat, whatever it is, and then it in fact will translate your performance in the gym,
Definitely.
and you can't push as much because it's still bloated from the previous meal, and then it's still having the acid reflux and stuff like that. I mean, if you look at it in a perspective of a car, would you pump petrol right up to the brim and you see whether
Some
your-
Singaporean does shake the car.
You can't shake your body to make sure the rest of the food to go down, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, true.
there's only so much digestive enzymes or pure probiotics or
probiotics
greens
and stuff, yeah.
can do that job. It's better to pace yourself in terms of like calories per week. You increase probably 100 or 200 calories, or rather, if you talk about carbs, you increase by probably 50, 80 per week,
Yep.
per meal. I mean, whatever.
Would you necessarily
Yeah.
increase it every week, or would you put
okay.
on a surplus to
Okay.
to a decent number, let the body work together with the intensity of the training, plus with whatever supplements that they're sitting in? Will you do that, or would you prefer to do a small increment every week?
Okay, this does not apply to everyone.
Yeah, true.
Okay,
Yeah.
so especially someone who has a very, very high metabolism.
High metabolism.
So that fellow can actually push food. In fact, if you don't push enough food, it will deflate.
Yeah, for sure.
I have a guy who eats about, even though he likes to eat, but there's always a certain amount of food that he can eat. So pushing 5,000, even 6,000 calories.
6,000. Ooh.
Yes. Okay. And
Totally
mine-
clean 6,000?
No.
Or-
Okay. That's half.
Yeah, alright. fair
Half,
enough.
right? So when he does half, the next day progress peaks I get is fantastic.
Yeah, for sure.
And then if he doesn't do half, the rest of the progress peak or the rest of the week
A little bit
suffers.
soft. Yeah.
A bit soft, flat, everything.
Yep.
And for someone who's a bit more, and he's a tall dude,
Oh, yeah.
all the guys need more calories to begin with.
Yep,
right?
yep.
And to put on size, you have to double or triple the amount of calories you eat. And the job that he does is not sedentary. He does move a lot. And his job is easily, you can do about 10,000 or 12, 15,000 clicks a day.
Steps.
Steps.
Alright,
Right. So, for someone who's a bit more sedentary, a bit shorter, of course you don't push that kind of amount of calories, and probably his metabolism is not that great. And I would rather slowly increase your calories. And also, talking about PEDs, depending on what kind of PEDs they're using.
Let's not touch the facilities.
Okay.
Alright. Yeah, so like you mentioned, it varies from different individual.
Oh yeah. Don't
Right.
forget each.
Yeah, each as well.
yeah.
On how the metabolism work, where they are at the point, the start point and stuff. So in term for just for them to understand is basically after a show, let's say they done a show and stuff, they go on a reverse dieting, they recom back again and stuff. So how fast would you approach to that matter that whereby, alright, once we recom we hit into a surplus? How long after a show?
It depends also.
Yeah, I know it depends, but I
Okay.
mean on an on your approach, how you
I would give them about really like 3 weeks, slowly increase it.
Alright.
Not like a avalanche of food. Right?
okay.
So-
So to reverse the diet and stuff.
Of course, we will diet first, then you slowly increase the carb and everything,
Alright.
and see how the reverse dieting, how the body respond. So if the response is positive,
Yeah.
pretty good. still maintaining some form of what do you call it? Conditioning,
yeah, conditioning stay.
some form of conditioning,
Yeah.
and in terms of your training in the gym doesn't really reflect any deficit in terms like your strength.
Disorient,
Yeah.
the strength and stuff
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
as long as your strength is going up, that's where you're at a good starting point to slowly increase the surplus.
Yeah, because I mean, I've read, I've seen, I've heard as well. They say the best muscle grow window is basically that after show, that rebound stage, as per se lah, to
Correct.
what I heard here and people say. So I mean, usually my approach after a show for a client, for an athlete, is basically, all right. For sure, they will jump for 1 or 2 days. Yeah, then I'll tell them, all right, slowly we'll reverse the diet. If there's no other show after that,
Okay.
slowly reverse the diet and stuff. Probably I would say I would love to work on the reversing diet basically at least 3 to 6 weeks. Yeah, why? I mean, I want them to ensure that we run on a low PEDs as well.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Then keeping, I don't want the guts to be pushing against the wall. Yeah. So reversing the diet very slowly. Then by the 6 weeks time, I would ask them to run a blood work.
Yes, of course, yeah.
To see how's the hematocrit, their creatinine and stuff like that, their livers, their lipids, how is it going. Then by then I would recomp their calories to ensure that we can hold and sustain the muscle mass of whatever we've done. Then slowly we push on into the off-season phase. This is prior to how I would approach lah.
Okay.
Yeah. How about yourself?
Would you, let's say you're already in a recom stage, right? Or surplus. Do you include cheat meals every day?
I would. It's a good question though. I mean, I would say at start I would say no. I would observe it every weekly by check-ins by the data, asking them how they feel. Do they feel satiated? Do they feel hungry? Do they feel full? Or do they feel content? So by having that recom, that meal getting higher, I need to understand from them as well. I mean, looking based on the physique and the scale. I know scale is not as important as it is, but I want to ensure that the scale and the physique itself move in the sync, whereby whatever the scale make changes, the visual makes sense.
So both what you consume and how you look in tandem lah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So prior to off meal or any cheat meals and stuff, yeah, that is prior to. I would want to see with the recom, with the amount of sodium that I'm giving. I'll see how the body responds, because the body is still to my understanding, to my approach, I see that the body is still primed because it's after a show.
Correct.
Yeah. So I don't want to put any unnecessary additional sodium into it, extra fat into it, dirty fat.
Okay.
Yeah. So prior to what I can control, I can control. But down the road, definitely once we go deep in stuff, because for me, cheat meals and stuff help with mental focus,
Yes. Right.
refresh the physique. Yeah. So I will take according changes, according needs of approach, depending on how the body respond and how the athlete respond emotionally, physically, and mentally. Yeah.
Correct. True.
Yeah. How about yourself?
For me, yes, of course, I will try to get a handle on the fat intake, right? For me, that, and I would not really control sodium. I'm a big sodium guy.
All right.
So
I can understand that. So
I-
some people
yeah.
does that. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm a big sodium fan in terms of like they can salt. I mean, not too salty. I mean,
At least like 8 to 10 grams per day.
yeah, about that or even more depending on.
Oh really?
Yeah,
Even for women?
both. It depends. Because see, look, I can have if let's say I put them on certain days that are really low carbs, right?
Understand.
Even though in a recom, salt is the best friend. I will even get some guys or even ladies put some salt or a few cracks into their intro workout
Yeah, true.
or pre-workout.
Understand.
Even though the pre-workout already has some sodium.
Yeah.
Because you need that driver to pull all these things
True.
into your muscle.
I agree.
I don't want it to be flat. And then they will say, oh, I'm too hungry, I'm flat, everything. So actually the sodium is pretty good. But of course, I keep the water high.
How high? Probably one day want to know. I want to. Whoa, okay.
Okay. Okay. Normally, as a human being itself, right? Okay, you need the 8 glasses of water is not enough. Right?
I would say on a decent ground, I would advise even for lifestyle a gallon at least.
Yeah, yeah. Or even more if you can.
Yeah.
Even more, yeah.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, because we're living in Singapore.
Yep.
Humidity is at 60%, 70%, 80%, right? So
what is this today now? Like 80%.
yeah, it's hot today. Okay, so and you train, you sweat. I mean, if you really train with very good intensity, you'll be sweating buckets. So you still need to replenish that salt coming in.
Makes sense.
And to make sure that you'll be able to focus.
Yeah.
Especially in the morning, I'm a big proponent of like probably electrolytes and a bit of salt in your water before
Will you advise them to have electrolyte in the daily approach of intra workout?
Yes. From the recent studies that I've done and myself, I find that having the electrolytes daily before the morning, or depending on how much water you're consuming, or how of a big day that you have with on that day, a lot of movement, a lot of sweat, everything here and there. Yes, I'm a big proponent of it. Probably in the morning, even after your training, add more electrolytes. I wouldn't say more is bad, more is better, rather than nothing at all.
Understand, for sure. Definitely.
If was having someone who's staying in a very temperate country, it's good to have actually more for mental focus for the electrolytes, right? For us, in reference of Singapore, of course you have to have a bit more.
True.
You walk from I walk from my house to the train station. I'm sweating already.
Bro, I have my meal. I sweat, bro.
Yes. No, you see, so electrolytes. If you look at the studies done recently, also, it's not a fad. Right? It's not a fad that to have electrolytes and everything. And these companies know. The studies are out.
Yeah.
People living in Southeast Asia or even in Singapore and what we have not, electrolytes is the best thing to have in terms of helping you with focus, training, and even your daily life. A lot of people are actually dehydrated without them knowing.
I would say 80%. Yeah, true.
So even for normal people, electrolytes in the morning before you actually have your breakfast is pretty good actually.
You guys can follow Haider Instagram. He always emphasize on hydration every morning.
Every morning. Hydration companies love him.
Yeah. Strength Master, fully sponsored to Haider. Then you can sponsor us as well.
Yes, and we will promote the shit out of it. Sorry, my French. Okay.
Alright, yeah. So electrolyte and stuff like that. Yeah. So I mean, moving forward on that, in terms of going through, so common question people love to know lah. People love to ask. I mean, does you put PEDs? Do you push PEDs? Does after your IGF-1 affected and stuff like that? So what's your take on that?
Okay, look, depending on the PEDs that you're using, definitely those fat burners, your clan and T3, need to don't remove it entirely. I always believe taper
down. I believe in that as well.
Taper down. In fact, even before stepping onto the stage, a week before, especially clan and stuff like that, I taper it down.
Yeah, I mean contest-wise, I will always approach the matter nearing to the show. 2 weeks, 1 week. By 1 week, almost at least half of the item is out. Yeah.
Because to me, my approach is that if you're trying to carb up, and you have like
fat burners
like 3 pills a day, defeats the purpose.
But the purpose
your carbs will go in and out just like that.
So, plus, I mean, furthermore, that additional fat burners putting in and stuff that you're trying to be consistent on it has been in your system for a while. Yeah, even there's a thing called half-life, but still our body already generate that amount of volume.
Because you're already burning. And you'll be consistent. But look, you're trying to carb up with superhuman amount of carbs when you already flatten out. and then you have that fat burner in there. What will actually will happen? Your metabolism go up again.
Yep.
And then
for
you'll
sure.
be stringy, flat as a pancake on stage, and then you say you never get a pump. Obviously, because a lot of people will think that the more nearing to the show, up the climb to the max, until probably your eyes or your nose will be bleeding out a bit.
Okay, let's don't go,
I'm very passionate about it.
Let's not go too far into the prep contest. Yeah. So talking about PEDs, how much PEDs are we using? As mentioned, whereby when we go off, do we pull everything? What kind of I would say approach are you using on running the PEDs throughout this off season?
Okay, in terms of off season, I would say also look at the person's starting point.
Yep.
If the physique is pretty good and also a budget, right? I would prefer always to have less is more.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so base test, yes.
How much less is less are you talking about? So the viewers and the audience can understand.
Okay, probably depending on age, experience of PD use, and experience in terms of training. If someone late 20s, they can easily go 3 shots of
300
test.
mg of test a week.
250, about 3 shots of test a
What
week.
would be the peak load that you recommend?
Okay. Okay, look. On myself, I've done as high as
1,000?
yes, 1,000. Yes, I've done that 1,000 before. Wasn't that great in terms like you feel big and everything, you feel strong.
Yeah,
yes,
I mean to
but-
develop big muscles and stuff.
Yeah.
You need. Yeah, it's just that. Okay, why I'm asking this? It's not to put myself or yourself on the spot. It's just basically when we talk about dosage and stuff, right? More in Singapore, when as a coach, when we see blood work, when we want to approach giving them protocols, dosage.
So
some of them I would say sorry. Some of them would say, oh, isn't this high dosage?
Okay, high dosage can be relative to
Exactly.
to person to person.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
if you base on blood work in terms of see how what's your free test or
Yep.
I wouldn't use free test as a gauge because you're using test on yourself.
Yep.
Free test doesn't really matter.
Yep.
You only see the total test.
Yep,
Right?
in the body, yeah, true.
In body. So from there you can make the call.
Yep.
How much you want to put in terms of does that incur more issues with the rest of the repeats and whatever.
Yeah, definitely,
So you find the sweet spot. So if a sweet spot for someone is 1,000, who am I to say no?
True.
Right? If the guy is still pretty good in terms of his mental is okay, he's not freaking out,
Yeah.
not too high strung,
Yeah.
and he's feeling normal, he's feeling good, that's it. I wouldn't change anything.
True.
1,000 milligram. But if someone who's a bit more out there at 1,000, I will bring it down, and his blood work doesn't show that he's actually performing inside at a very healthy way.
Yep.
I will bring it down.
Yeah, there's just definitely a sign and lever that we can take away from blood work to ensure
Correct.
how we approach
Right.
on how much dosage or what kind of PDs are we using and stuff.
Correct.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, to add on, the thing is that you also must know how to feel. You should at least give your coach or whoever it is, right, the feedback that they need.
Yeah, I yes, this is something I would love to expand as well. So it's a good one, but you guys need to understand out there as well. For those who are competing, trying to compete, or even in this game, the check-ins.
Yes.
The check-ins is not a one-word answer whereby you just I'm feeling good. We want to know why you're feeling good.
Yeah.
I mean, we want to know what effect has the accordance changes that we make previous week. Let's say, for example, the changes for your PEDs. We are taking out compounds, or we are adding in
Adding on,
compounds, or even lessen the dosage or increase the dosage. So we need, as a coach, we need that data, right?
Yeah, the
To
feedback.
really that feedback, because if you're not telling us what's happening, you think that, all right, I think I can handle it and stuff, then prior to that, we are missing informations, we are missing context that it might be vital to your body,
Okay.
right?
As simple as if let's say you increase certain amount of PEDs, and then when we ask you questions like after increasing that, do you feel hungry?
Yep.
If the fellow say I'm okay. I mean, if you increase X amount of test or you suddenly increase EQ, let's say increase acute EQ to a high level. If you, I mean, okay, just put it as probably 800 mg.
I just wanted to say that.
Okay, 800 mg a week. If the guy say, I'm okay lah. I mean, that means your hunger, or rather, if you can't eat, no point increasing the EQ.
Exactly.
You have to bring it down.
Yeah.
Bring it down because EQ will definitely, at certain point, will damper your hunger or your appetite. Even though it's supposed to help.
It's supposed to open up the appetite lah.
But then again, some people will say, it goes the opposite. I've experienced it. I've experienced it before, so I have to damper it down. Or the worst case scenario, if
Or probably the activity level is low lah.
I mean your bedroom activity is low, or even if you see someone hot, and I mean be it boy or man nowadays, I mean you don't feel anything. There's the feedback that we need to know. So that's where actually you literally hitting a wall, right? So we have to bring it down. These are the questions, or rather things you don't need to be shy about.
For sure.
You, as a athlete or whatever, you say, coach, I couldn't, with my girlfriend, wife, whatever, probably, I think something is off here. Then we can do something about it to add on or reduce, and we counter with something to help with that. Because if you're mentally not there and you're not happy in and out of the gym, what's the point, right? What's the point? So ultimately, we have to work on your health internally to make you better externally, if you understand that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, like there's a saying, like, I mean, health is wealth.
Yeah, correct, true.
Yeah,
Even
so
though you're trying
even
to...
in bodybuilding and fitness,
Yeah.
I mean, health is basically fitness, right?
true.
So, based on that, I mean, common question as well. I believe out there, you guys would love to know. I mean, what's the best? I will give my opinion as well. I mean, what's the best length or how much phases that we need to go to ensure of off-season before we go into a pre-contest? For
Okay.
you, I mean,
For
you
me.
personally lah.
For
your
me.
approach.
Like I say, I always see from the starting point. When I say starting point, it's more of how the physique look like.
Yes.
So if your muscle mass, your muscle density, your proportions, and conditioning stuff all looks okay, yes, probably we can start slowly to transition to pre-contest.
Will you emphasize what is okay?
Okay, look, I would rather to have, in terms of conditioning, body fat percentage, in an ideal world, probably 15,
10 to 15
16,
lah.
10 to 15, or even 16, pushing it 18, 16, still okay.
It depends on
Right.
genetic as well,
Yeah,
right?
and
True.
how far off is that show?
Yep.
Okay, if someone coming in at probably 25% body fat, no lah. I mean, you have to be realistic in terms like, if the show is gonna be in 3 months time, rather no.
I mean, if you're 25% body fat, I mean, and your muscle mass is slippery.
Okay, I mean, look, genetic freaks doesn't apply. Right? Genetic freaks doesn't apply.
So, will you advise someone to? I mean, yes, this is basically dependent approach, right? But in terms of on a, it's like your go-to advice or go-to approach, will you run how long would you run off season for an athlete? Because for me, to be honest, I would love to put at least around, say, 14 to 20 weeks, depending also on individual, and even I would love to put on a solid 20 week if their physique doesn't deem to be ready for a show, because I want them to be pushing this off season to be motivated,
maximize the whole potential.
to utilize whatever the food and stuff, and not to shy away from food, enjoy the food, and train hard. Yeah.
So okay, let me emphasize that that person should have a solid
Base.
base, right? If the base is really solid, I will go 16 to 18.
Okay.
Like,
Fair.
that's just me. If in my own personal experience, 20 or 22 or even 24 weeks,
A bit far.
a bit far. I mean, a bit. If you can, I like to prep my guys early.
Understand.
So 2 weeks out, they're kind of there already.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, 2 weeks out, they're kind of
Contest,
there.
yeah.
So, but imagine the fella been. I think I have an experience where one of my ex guys has been dieting for too long.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I understand you're taking basically a benchmark of dieting too long.
Yeah, and of course, with the PEDs using it for that long, it does affect
For
in
sure.
terms of how you look, in terms of how your skin actually look after that.
Yeah.
Prolong, you look a bit more toxic. So I would rather have the guys coming in looking healthy in per se, and not drained, even to the point that they're enjoying their time on stage. Right, too long and protected off season or pre contest doesn't really help them mentally and physically. So that's why I say emphasize on the solid off season, and making sure when that solid off season is good, we
Sorry.
emphasize on pre contest going hard.
Going high.
Going hard in terms
going
of
hard, understand.
going hard in pre-contest and get you ready earlier. And when you get in earlier, get ready earlier, you just cruise in. And then actually there you can actually play around with cheat meals here and there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because we want to maintain that high metabolism coming
Yeah,
in.
definitely.
So some guys will see like, hey, how come this guy eating burgers and fries like 2 weeks out from the show? Because probably that fella needs it.
Yep. I believe so. Yeah, and just so you guys know that, I mean, yes, he's been mentioning having cheat meals, having off meal plan and stuff. It's not really necessary for everyone. Like we mentioned, it's a dependent approach on who needs it.
Yeah.
What kind of
Case by
metabolism,
case
case by
basis.
case basis and stuff. Yeah. So what we are trying to do here is try to basically widen the spectrum for you guys to understand how we approach stuff.
Yeah, if you are behind, I mean, you got to be real to yourself that you don't need that cheat meal. If you're chasing it, you have to tell yourself, look, you're already behind. You don't ask or be entitled to have a cheat meal as if it's part of the program.
Yeah.
Get yourself as lean as possible, and if you talk about cheat meal, probably after the show.
Because I mean, I feel during even in off season, giving one or two off meal plan, I mean, at some point there's high day and stuff. I
Yeah.
would rather enjoy that refeed on the high day with clean food.
Yeah, I mean, increase the carbohydrate and stuff
increase
like
the
that.
carbohydrates and stuff. Even in the pre-contest, it will be much. I mean, as an athlete, you don't need to be asking and waiting for that cheat meal. I believe. Yeah, you need to
Correct.
be. What's more important, the goal, the show,
Uh-huh.
or are you? Let's say you're prepping for 12 weeks out. By the time you start your prep at 12 weeks, you're already thinking, okay, by the 10 week, by the 8 week, I'm gonna ask my coach, am I gonna have burgers and fry or Hokkien mee and stuff like that? Yeah.
To relate to that, I have a ex guy who, when I gave him a cheat meal, you sure or not, coach? Are you sure or not? He's in doubt himself.
Yeah.
You think I deserve it? Or not? Do you think I'm okay with that cheat meal? I said, go. Even though, look, sometimes, even though that person might not think that he deserved that cheat meal, actually, if you look in the grand scheme of things, he actually need it.
Okay.
Because even though he might think that, oh, I'm not ready to get that cheat meal, but having that cheat meal not for everyone, right?
Yeah.
Might actually spur more fat burning issues.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just to sensitize the receptors
Yeah.
of your insulin. It helps to really push and drive your metabolism much more faster without you realizing, because you are in a state of I use the word deprived, yeah, in a way, yeah. So once your body receives this, it really has an instant restart button. Yeah,
It also help if you're, I mean, you're stressed up.
for
You're
sure.
stressed up, it gives you that cheat meal, and then after eating that cheat meal, you feel happy, your dopamine is high,
Yep.
and then it suppresses your cortisol.
Yeah.
When that
I just
happens,
wanted to mention that,
when
yeah.
that happens, right, your body is freely to release fat for energy.
Yep,
Yeah?
yep.
So there's a lot of science behind that.
Yep.
Guys, or as guys train, as you realize how your body behave in certain ways,
True.
there's actually markers for you to understand, why I need this treatment. But as you go along on this journey of, like, probably if you're doing it alone, if you're doing it with a coach, learn from the coach to see where your body, or rather how your body react to certain things or certain impulse by the coach.
Yep.
Meaning he put in this or remove that, you learn. So actually when you learn, if you have to do it on your own, you can replicate that, or you can adjust the variables as you see it fit. Because every prep is, or rather every off season is not the same.
True.
Yeah, you have challenges here and there.
Alright. Okay, well, we have a few minutes left. So before we end this episode, I mean, one thing that I want to expand also on off season. Will you still put in what's the minimum amount of fruits are you putting into off season to ensure that, because most cases the worries for clients of having fruits into off season or even in pre-contest is basically, oh, fruit is sugar.
Okay, look,
Yeah, no, I'm just
anyone who say that fruits are sugar, right? Either you delete, block, unfriend the person. Okay? Delete, block, everything, right? Even cut ties, even don't talk. You see him on the street, run the other way, right? Because look, fruits are there for a reason.
Yep.
They got micronutrients and stuff.
Antioxidants.
I have some of my guys a lot on blueberries, a lot on bananas, even papaya,
Yeah,
pineapple.
yeah, digestion and stuff.
Yeah, even kiwis. After workout, I have some guys who have protein shake and kiwi, right? Kiwi, even grapes. All these things are good stuff. I mean, I will stay away a bit from durian, but I mean, apples. Look,
Yeah, for sure.
unless you are at 3 weeks out or 2 weeks out, I still can have some guys have banana.
No, why not? Why not, right?
Yeah, why not? I mean, it won't hurt you. You just play around with the other variables like the rice or the carbs and other stuff like that. You play around with that variable. But anyone that tells you that you cannot eat fruits because there's sugar,
It's bullshit.
even it's bullshit big time. Even if a doctor tell you that, you find a new doctor.
So
Okay.
on a scale, I would say, what's the minimum amount or decent amount of grams of fruit would you introduce to a meal plan for a certain someone?
You're talking about off season or pre-contest?
Since it's off season now, we talk about off season. Later on, we talk about pre-contest.
No.
You open the gate lah.
I open again. You want to have 2 bananas? By all means. You want the whole watermelon? If you can do that, have it.
Alright.
Don't forget watermelon a lot of citrulline.
Yeah, true.
I mean,
It
look.
helps with your training.
Yeah, correct. Even beetroot.
Yep.
Those are good for your gut fiber.
Yep.
And you're gonna have a massive pump in and out of the gym.
Yep, just like a nutrient outside lah.
Yeah, if you have issues in the bedroom, few beetroot won't help. It will help.
Man, I don't know, man. Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Look. No, I have a guy who's in Japan, right? So he's had issues with cravings for sugar. I said to him, very easy. Have as much fruits you want. I have no restriction with that. You want to have fruits at every meal, any variety of fruits, by all means.
Just
have it.
update me.
Yeah, of course. Look, there's always a buffer of calories you would give to that person,
Yeah.
but that person doesn't know the buffer.
Not everyone gonna be not everyone's gonna be regimental.
Yeah, correct. So my buffer is pretty high.
Understand.
So if they have X amount of fruits, even like two papaya or whatever nonsense that they have, it's still not gonna reach the buffer that I set up for them.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, true. That's a good one. So you guys know now how roughly on the surface, if you wanna know how to run a off-season development season, we have shared on in depth a bit. Probably on the surface.
I mean, if you want to go more in depth or get more personalized, you can either drop Yodi on his DM, ask him questions here and there.
Same goes to Sari.
Same goes to me.
Yeah.
Drop me on my DM in Instagram or his Instagram. We can probably talk a bit more detail. Like what we having here on this podcast is more generalized
Yeah.
and not specific to anyone. But takeaway from this is that you can learn and adjust to how you're gonna do your.
So yeah, it's just a structure based.
Yes, correct.
For this podcast, whereby you guys can understand. Oh, all right, this is how off season is gonna work wise, and what not to do and what to do. What food can be introduced, what food we can't, and stuff sort of and stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right, I think it's a good one today on off season.
Yep.
Yeah. So once again, we want to thank Fuel Stretch Performance for sponsoring this podcast, and I want to show I'm appreciate for Coach Sari. I'm grateful
Same goes to Rio, right?
yeah,
For having me here.
to be my co-host to deliver this podcast to you guys out there, so you guys can have more informative information, and I can use this podcast as a platform to help you guys prepare for a show, to understand whether you guys need to hire a proper coach and stuff like that. So any last word from you?
Remember, fools are not evil.
Yeah.
Alright.
And don't put the cup on your head.
Okay.
Alright, okay.
Alright.
Till then, see you guys.
See you.
Ciao.